Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Nimbus Intuition. Y'all know the deal. Let me get Facebook going. Just a moment. Hope everybody out there is doing well. All right. Just another moment. We're going to have Facebook on here. All right. Today is the 16th. I have my days all mixed up. Right. That's it, y'all. Let's see how Facebook is going to act today. All right, so I think I'm live. It's hard to tell on Facebook sometimes. But how's everybody doing? Let's get this started off right. Let's think about pleasant things. Let's think about those things that bring you smiles and joy and happiness. Think about whatever it is that does that for you. Could be a picture, could be a place, could be a person, could be sitting alone in a park, in a garden, wherever it is. It could be your favorite place you want to go, the place that you dream about going. It could be that dream. It could be anything. Just think about those things. Think about those things. It could be a flower, could be a pet, could be a parent, could be anything. So think about those things that make you smile, make you laugh, make you feel good. Think about those things. Think about those things. And that's how we're going to get started. All right, so how's everybody out there? This is Nimbus Intuition. All right, so this tea time, I really wanted to talk about another specific topic. And this topic is about disagreements, arguments, and fights in relationships. And so, hold on, I'm trying to see both things. Hold on. All right, so now everybody is on a journey of their own. Not everybody's at the same level of their awakening journey. And so some people have one foot in, one foot out of, the world, matrix world, and the awakened world. We know that as we become whole people, we kind of release those things that we deal with when we're talking about the matrix. However, a lot of us are still dealing with the matrix. And a lot of us who are awakened on some kind of awakened journey still deal with those things from the matrix, because that's what we know, that's what we programmed to do. And so we still deal with those things. And it's surprising sometimes even that you will find that all that programming is still a part of you, even though you are awakened on some level. So we got to talk about these things. But know that as you become whole as a person, as you become, your full self, you get that self-love within you, those things kind of get released from you. If you are dealing with someone else who's also whole, those things will get released from you, because we have different comprehension of what goes into our anger and our jealousy and our love and our different aspects that we have inside of us. And so it's something that we learn about, something that comes to us, something that we're enlightened to. And so, yet, like I said, everybody's on a different path. And so these are things that we commonly deal with. And a lot of it is matrix stuff, but you know what? Some people may still be dealing with this. And, as I'm doing this series, the Healing Through Song series, I'm realizing that I don't see a lot of people talking about these issues in a very basic type of way. Like it's talked about, but like I said, I want to kind of touch on it because it's not, instead of being like kumbaya all the time, we got to deal with those shadow aspects of what we deal with. We have to deal with those negative parts of us. And this comes into it because not all of us are dealing with partners who are also awakened. There are some people who are not even, on an awakened journey yet. And so these are things that we deal with, and no judgment on anybody's part. But this is life. This is the life we are living in, and so we have to discuss these things because until we learn how to be whole people, we're going to continuously deal with these things. And even like I said, some people who are already on the awakened journey still deal with these things as well. So disagreements, arguments, and fights in relationships. Like these are things that happen in our relationships. These are things that we deal with in relationships. And as I'm listening to these songs, trying to figure out what I'm gonna bring y'all and stuff like that to go through these steps that I'm gonna take y'all through the healing, I'm listening to these depictions of people who think that everything is only supposed to be good. There's not supposed to be a negative side to a relationship. And that's not true. That's not the case. And if you live life, you know that's not the case. And I don't want people to believe, because I have daughters, and I always think about my daughters when I'm talking about things, but I don't want people to believe that you're not supposed to have any negativity in a relationship, because that's not true. Everything has its good side and its bad side. So know that, and this is about it. Have you think about it. Think about it for a moment, how you are in your other relationships, in your relationships growing up. You usually have a few close friends. You usually have your parents. If you have siblings, you have brothers and sisters around you, cousins, you have all kinds of different relationships as you grow up. Now, I'm talking to adults in this video, so this is not for any kids, but I'm just trying to make you think about other relationships. And all those other relationships, were there times where there were little arguments or disagreements, maybe full-fledged, word battles between you? You remember back when you and your sister had this crazy argument. Y'all went back and forth, and doors were slammed in the whole nine. But what happened? Afterwards, y'all figured it out. Y'all came back together, and everything was love again, right? And same thing with your parents. You may have, if you're respectful, you've had disagreements with your parents, not, cursing or anything like that at them, but you've had disagreements with your parents. Maybe trying to, trying to get your way to do whatever it is that you wanted to. That's usually how it goes. And then you had that disagreement with your parents. You were mad. You got mad or whatever, went about your business or whatever, came back, and then you all were good after a while, right? And your close friends, especially your close friends, you remember times where y'all argued, y'all had disagreements, y'all had full-fledged fights sometimes, and you all had your time to be mad at each other, and then it was a time where you all got over those mad feelings, and then you came back to each other in friendship and, pick up where you left off. And so I want y'all to think about that when I'm talking about this subject, because this is how you can realistically think about your romantic relationship, that partnership, that love relationship. Because just like those other relationships, those two will have disagreements and arguments and maybe even full-fledged, word battles If hands are used, I wouldn't suggest that to continue. But there are going to be arguments and disagreements. So let's think about what we did to get over the fight with our sister or our brother or our parent or best friend. Back when, these are the relationships before we have before we are, adults and we have these love relationships. All right. So if you are mature, you were mature in it, you had this disagreement, this falling out or whatever, and you figured out some kind of solution, some kind of compromise, and then you came back together. So I like to give examples, all right? So I want to, like I said, I'm keeping it on the other relationships because that's the best example. I'm gonna use a made up example, all right? You and your best friend, y'all couldn't agree on. Me and my friends used to have silly disagreements. Like sometimes we wanted to wear the same clothing, so we decided we wanted to wear blue jeans and red tops on a Wednesday or something like that, right? And so one of us didn't wear the blue jeans and the top that we decided that we was going to wear. That's a cause for an argument right there. So why didn't you go ahead and we said we was going to do this, or why didn't you do that and this and that? And that's something small. But then you figure out what's the problem, and then usually it's in that kind of scenario, the person forgot about it, had something else on their mind that day when they got dressed, and and then it's forgotten about, right? Let me think of another scenario. All right, the sibling scenarios can get kind of messy because siblings, I think that's the most honest relationship you have as you're growing up, because siblings, they don't, you don't choose your siblings. So there are no airs put on for your brothers and sisters. There's no acts put on for your brothers and sisters. It's just what it is. And sometimes that's the truth for the parents too, but not all the time, depending on your parents. But with brothers and sisters, what I found is that those are the most honest relationships that you have as you grow up. So when you have these arguments with your brothers and sisters, the same thing applies. All right, so your brother left the pizza in the refrigerator. You went behind him and ate what you knew was his pizza. And I'm making up, these are real scenarios, right? And then y'all had an argument because he's pissed off at you because you went back and ate his pizza that you knew was his pizza. And this little thing can turn into a big argument. And so it could be, nasty words said depending on the kind of family you grew up in, the kind of respect y'all give each other, whatever. And then, he huffs off, he's mad, and he goes over to his room, and you go about your business, and then you're mad. And he might stay mad, or, well, kids usually will stay mad a little while. He might stay mad until a couple days go by, and then it's like, and you offer him some, I don't know, something else that you've gotten. And that's like a peace offering, right? So you ate his pizza, so you give him something in return for eating his pizza. Maybe you went and bought him a whole different pizza or something like that. Something like that. And then that's usually the end of that, until the next thing, right? And so in that scenario, you thought the solution was to offer him something in lieu of what you took from him, right? And so that sufficed because he was happy and he was satisfied with that. And then y'all was cool. And then you gotta be I guess you gotta get the maturity when there's something that you have a disagreement with your parents. They don't want you to go to the party, but you just finished getting all A's in school or something and da-da-da. But then they still don't want to let you go. You got to tell them why it is that you think that you deserve to go, and the fairness in the situation, and then, have them consider your thoughts about what it is that you feel are the reasons you should be able to go. And they usually will tell you, well, sometimes parents will tell you, you're not going because I said so. Or sometimes parents will say, they give you the reasons. It's a dangerous neighborhood. They're going to have alcohol there, something like that, and this and that. And they go down the list. Sometimes it's because I say so, right? But in that scenario, if you're mature enough to go ahead and present your part of it and everything, sometimes parents will adjust a little bit to say, well, maybe I'll let you go for an hour, but then make sure that you don't, partake in the craziness, and you be home no later than the exact time, and right? And that's a compromise, and that's usually what happens when it comes to those disagreements with your parents. And I'm just pointing all these things out to just have in your mind, like I said, these are things that we go through as we grow. When it comes to love relationships, we usually don't have those until we're older, usually close to adult, if not adult already. All right. And so if we romanticize these love relationships, like the movies, show us to do, the programming in the movies show us to do, we think that everything is supposed to be nothing but roses. We think that, the knight shining armor comes across, sweeps you off your feet, and is happily ever after. And the fairy tales that we get told, those romantic stories we get told, a lot of times don't have a real scenario in between there, where real life is shown between the two that come together. And so sometimes we have this idea in our heads that our love relationships are not supposed to have any conflict program. And so, and this is just like the other relationships we've had throughout our lives. It's not different. It's different to a point, but it's not different as far as the things that will happen in them. There will be disagreements, arguments, and sometimes, word battles and fights. That's what I mean by fights. Again, I'll say that if there are hands involved, someone is actually physically fighting, that's not a scenario that you want to be in. So, but as far as disagreements and arguments, yes, they do happen. Just a second, y'all. They do happen, they will happen, because we are human. We're human, we've had different upbringings. Sometimes we have cultural differences, there's different environmental differences, and all those things make for different ways of being, different ways of thinking, different ways of behaving. And so in love relationships, this is the case as well, just like those other relationships. And so the knight in shining armor scenario, you got to let go of that program, because that's not how it is. Now, I'm giving my opinions on it. I say to go by intuition with things, and go by people who have had the experience. So always try to have around you people who you can talk to, who have been there and done that. And that includes a love relationship. So if you know any couples who've been together for 10, 20 years, maybe your grandparents, uncles, aunts, whoever's around you, it's good to have those people around you and be able to, talk to them sometimes. Say, well, can I ask your opinion on this? And can I ask your opinion on that? Sometimes that's something that you want to do. People who've been there and done it, and how do they resolve conflict? It's interesting to ask someone who's in those long-term relationships, how do they resolve conflict? And if you ask, those same couples about some of the conflicts that they have. You may be surprised at what you hear. You hear things, something like not putting the top to the toothpaste back. You hear things like um, dirty clothes on the floor and not in the hamper. You hear things like, I don't know, not putting the food away in the kitchen or something, or not doing the dishes. It'll be really small things that you will hear that cause arguments and disagreements. But this is, this is part of it, part of coming together and, having those differences and those playing out. And the same goes. The same goes for love relationships when it comes to those disagreements and arguments that it does when it comes to those relationships between siblings, your brothers and your sisters, your parents, or your friendships. You have an issue, you figure out what the issue is, you come up with some kind of solution, some kind of compromise, and then life goes on. No angry feelings are remaining. And so, that is usually how it goes. And so, yeah, that's what I really want to talk about. This is a good one to kind of go back and forth with, because I really want to know from you all out there, what are some of the disagreements, arguments, and fights that you've come across in your love relationship that were really something small, and then it like grew to something big, something like the toothpaste top not being put back on the tube. You would be amazed. That's a very common argument between people. It can be anything. It really can. And so just remember that people have different experiences. People in the same house, and I'm just going back to the family scenario. They can be raised in the same house, go to the same school, have the same parents, have all the things that are the same, but can be totally different personalities. And so if that's true for brothers and sisters, imagine how true it can be for people in love relationships who are, have so many differences, grew up in different houses with different parents and different environments, and so you have to take that into consideration. But definitely let go of the programming that everything is supposed to be roses, because roses have thorns, and this is the thing that we must remember. They also smell. Depending, but sometimes you can get them roses, anyway. So roses, as beautiful as they are, can carry a smell, and they have thorns, so you have to be careful when you prick your finger. And so, and just like that, the love relationship, yes, it's beautiful to have. I think love is beautiful. Y'all know my thoughts on love. It's nothing like love. I think that's one of the best gifts God has given us, is the love between two people in a love relationship. Love is beautiful. However, it's not all roses. There will be some instances where, just like the rose, some thorns may stick out sometimes, right? There may be some kind of, some smell to it you got to fix or whatever. Oh, man. But, yeah, here, the expectation according to the program is something we kind of got to let go of, especially those Disney movies. At least my generation grew up to. The most recent Disney movies have been kind of changing things up a little bit. And that's really nice to see, because I remember watching like Tangled with my daughter, and what's another one? What's the one with the ice and everything with the sisters? Frozen, right? That's a different one as well. And so, and I think there's a few of them like that. recently in the last few years, at least the last decade, I would say. And so that's really nice to see that there are some realistic aspects now in these fairy tales that are being shown to our kids. Because remember, our kids are watching, and so if you're allowing your kids to watch, even if you're not, like kids find ways to do what they want to do sometimes. So programming is there, and so and the programming for most of us is that knight in shining armor for men. You're that knight in shining armor. You're supposed to sweep it off your feet, and then everything's supposed to be happily ever after. They'll tell you the in between. And for women, same thing. They'll tell you the other side, the regular side, the everyday rigmarole of life that couples get into. And so, like I said, go to people that you know that have been together for 10 or more years and ask questions, pick their brain. And you might be surprised at what some of the stories that they will share with you. All right. And so, yeah, that's really what I wanted to bring you out today. The most recent songs that I've been listening to, and I'm coming with another video for Healing Through Song, probably tomorrow. Y'all see the next one, the next installment, right? And with these recent songs that I've been listening to, some of them are not recent, but a lot of them are. It's still some of the same kind of themes, And so I think the program is still there. It's some adjustments there, as well. Along with the movies, there are some tweaks or whatever. However, the same kind of program is there. The happily ever after. We meet, everything's beautiful, and there's no negativity at all when that's not true. All right. And so, you have any questions or comments? This is the time. Yeah. And so, that's what I wanted to bring y'all. No programming. We know that everything is good and is bad. That's including love relationships. I'm going to take it back to the Celibate 69 series. I believe I went over that and a few of those as well. And so, but Celibate 69 series is more about, knowing yourself before you go there into that kind of relationship. And so, I think the best way to come together in a love relationship is to be as whole as you can be. Two whole people together, I think, can make the best relationship. And so, get to knowing yourself before the love relationship, and making sure that the other person is just as whole. And, that makes for a better relationship. All right. And so, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. If nobody has any questions or comments right now that I can answer. And yeah, let me see. It is tea time. I'm trying to do this like a tea time plus do it like one of these videos that I post. But I haven't really done videos lately, so it's kind of like a mixture of whatever. Yeah. And the only thing I can tell you right now is tomorrow you get the next installment of Healing Through Song, and that's really it, because I don't want to be talking about it, y'all. Look out for notifications, and if you have any comments or questions after I shut this down, that's fine. Go ahead and ask your questions. I'll do what I can to answer them. And me, myself, because I believe in, getting the opinion of people who've been there and done that. While I've had good relationships, I'm not in a relationship that has lasted a decade or longer. So asking a question that I think belongs to a person who's been in those kind of relationship, and that's where I will ask and get you an answer. All right. And so, but I'll answer what I can, and probably point you to one part of the Celebrate 69 series for an answer. So be good to check that out. I'll tell folks that if you are able to go through those 69 steps and say that you have mastered all of those steps, you are pretty good to go as far as your love relationship is concerned. Now, if you take those 69 steps, those 69 areas, and ask the person that you're with as well how they feel about how they have mastered all of those, then that can give you an idea of how whole they are, you know, and how much they know themselves. And that can give you a good indication, I think, on the wholeness of you two. All right. And so that's what I would also suggest, because the more whole you are, the less programming you're gonna have, the less it's just gonna be a lot. It's gonna flow a lot easier. That's not going to say it's going to eliminate the negativity, because there will be times of disagreements. It's just natural. However, two whole people coming together is the best case scenario. All right. And so go ahead and check out that series. All right. And that's all for now, y'all. I'm going to leave y'all with some love. Look out for the next Healing Through Song tomorrow. And let me go ahead and say goodnight. All right. So let me leave y'all with some love. I do. All right. All right, y'all. Love and gratitude.